Charlie felt his eyelids jump wildly. He immediately turned his head without thinking, twisted the accelerator of the electric bike, and left quickly. Seeing Charlie disappear, Leona hurried to chase outside, but when she came out, Charlie was gone. She stood at the door in a daze, looked around anxiously, and murmured, "Did I have hallucinations?" After she finished speaking, she hurriedly turned her head and asked the old butler who was following her, "Uncle White, did you see a young man who looks particularly like a Changying?" Although the old butler only glanced at Charlie, he still said with great certainty, "Second miss, I did see a young man riding an electric bike just now. He really looks like Mr. Wade." As soon as Leona heard this, she was so excited that she was a little trembling when she spoke, and said, "Yes, yes. Since you saw Uncle White, it proves that I didn't. It's real, no hallucinations appeared in my mind." As she said, she couldn't help but mutter, "Why? How could there be two people who look like this in this world? And that young man looks like he is in his 20s. How can it look so similar to old Wade?" The old butler sighed softly. "The world is very big. It is normal to have two people who look very similar but have no actual relationship." Leona nodded. "Uncle White, you are right. The world is so big and there are so many people. It is indeed normal to have two very similar people occasionally." Speaking of this, Leona couldn't hide her excitement and blurted out, But even if someone really looks like Mr. Wade, he shouldn't be here." "Where is this?" "This is the former residence of Chong Wade. He has nothing to do with Chong Wade. Is that too coincidental?" When the old butler heard this, he couldn't help frowning. He also admitted that Leona made a lot of sense. It is not too strange for someone to look like Changying, but if he appears at the door of Changying's former residence, it would be a coincidence. Even the coincidence is almost weird. At this moment, a clue suddenly popped into his mind, and he blurted out, "Second miss, I remember. Mr. Wade, he seems to have a son." Leona nodded and said, "Yes. Chong Wade did have a son, but when his son was born, I was thinking about wrongs, and Zin had always had a big opinion on Changying, so I was basically with the Wade family. I lost contact with him, so I have not seen his son." While speaking, she murmured again, "However, after Changying and sister-in died unexpectedly, their son disappeared. It seems that they have never heard of finding him." The old butler said with excitement, "Then this is right. Mr. Wade and Ms. N's accident happened in Ors Hill, and their son also disappeared in Ors Hill. The young man just now looked like Mr. Wade. Come on, that young man has a high probability of being Mr. Wade's son." Leona's tears burst again, and she said distressed-edly, "If it was Chong Wade's son, he should be only 8 years old when Chong Wade passed away. If he hasn't returned to Wade's house for so many years, it's really not enough." "I know how I got here," the old housekeeper said with emotion. "I saw him riding a dilapidated electric bike." "It shouldn't be too good to live here." Leona nodded, looked at the old butler, and pleaded, "Uncle White, help me find a way, and be sure to find him out. I can be regarded as his father's old friend after that. If he does not live well, then I would like you to help him." The old butler thought for a moment, and said seriously, "Second miss, forgive me if this child has a level of life at the bottom, then his ability, vision, and education level should not be too strong. Furthermore, I guess he will have a relatively hard time with a high probability now. If you let him know your identity, if he wants to get rich overnight and want to rely on your relief for a long time, maybe he will come to you. There is a good saying, it is easy to ask God to give it away. Before you help him, you must think carefully." Leona sighed and said, "Don't worry about these. If you can find him, I won't talk to him too much." She said, "I am planning to give him a sum of money, so I'll say that I owed his father a debt back then, so I paid him all the debts at once with a profit, so give him 50 million. As for what he will be like after he has these 50 million, it all depends on his own good fortune, okay?" Seeing that she had a relatively safe plan, the old butler relaxed and said, "Then I will ask someone to inquire." At the same time, Charlie had already escaped hundreds of meters by bike. In order not to be found by Leona, he didn't even buy any vegetables, so he rushed directly to the home. On the way, he called Isaac, and as soon as he came up he ordered, "Mr. Isaac, someone went to the old house where my parents lived today. Please help me find out who it is." Isaac asked in surprise, Master, did you go to the old house today? Yes. Charlie said, I saw a woman there. She looked at me and called my father's name. I want you to help me find out her identity, and check if this person is an enemy or a friend. Have any intersection with my father, okay? Isaac said without hesitation. I will investigate now, Charlie said again. By the way, there is one more thing you need to do for me. Isaac hurriedly said, Master, you say? Charlie said, check what the situation of the owner of the old house is now, when will his case be pronounced, and when will the house be put up for auction? I want to buy this house. Okay, young master, I'll check it out. Afterward, Charlie randomly found a supermarket near the community, and he was ready to go home after buying the stuff. As soon as he left the supermarket, Isaac called. Master, both things have results. Charlie gave a hum, and said, tell me one by one. Isaac hurriedly said, it is the second lady of Eastcliff Dew's family, Leona, who went to your parents' former residence today. Charlie frowned and asked, the Dew family. Leona? What is it? Isaac said, this Leona is the wife of Zin. What? Charlie asked in amazement, Mrs. Zin? Jufei, Ziyu's biological mother? That's right. Isaac said, it's Jufei and Ziyu's mother. She came to Oru's Hill this morning. Charlie asked, then why did she come to my parents' former residence? She knew my father? Isaac explained, you may not know this thing. In fact, this Leona has always liked your father, but your father did not choose her back then. Charlie was surprised, but also somewhat embarrassed. Zin's wife likes your father, which is indeed a bit unexpected. Charlie thought that Ruoli was the illegitimate daughter of Zin. It was exposed by the Japanese media last night. Leona came to Oru's Hill today and went to the former residence of his parents. Is this really a bit too impatient? If Zin knew, he would be so angry that he would vomit blood. Isaac said, Master, there is news about the house. Charlie said hurriedly. Say it, Isaac explained. In the case of the homeowner, the final judgment will be pronounced in these 2 days. The amount of money involved in the illegal fundraising was very large, and the fund chain was broken and he was unable to repay it all. Therefore, in addition to the sentence, it is likely to be confiscated. All the assets are used to compensate the victimized investors, so once the judgment is pronounced, the house will immediately enter the judicial auction process. If it goes smoothly, the auction may start within a week. When Charlie heard this, his heart was overjoyed, and he hurriedly said, you will sign up for me. I will go to the auction at that time. In any case, I have to buy this house back. Isaac said, okay master, this matter is on me. Charlie said, let's do this first. You helped me keep an eye on that Leona. Since she knows my father, she will probably guess my identity. My identity cannot be revealed, for now, so try not to let her find me.